notes over there on how to kill deer or what?
Why, can you see my notepad?
Yeah, I seen you over there studious and shit.
Yeah, I got show notes. Show notes. I was shopping on the Huntworks, seeing what they had in inventory so we could talk about it.
Do they have any, Black Friday deals they want to talk about or anything?
They're pretty tight. Dan and Steve, I mean, that's the one thing I'll tell you about them is that they're tight,
See, I feel the opposite. If you ask them to deliver something, they don't even make you pay for it.
Well, deliver, yeah, but I mean, they're gonna make you you're gonna get you one way or the other. I know that about the Dunningans.
Maybe they got you and Dad enough. They just felt obligated to give me a set of sticks.
Maybe it could very well be what it is. How are you, Big Jim?
Right.
Oh, look at that advertisement. I thought somebody was getting on here, but that's just the link right there. Why don't we talk a little bit about the Huntworks, Jimbo? We're getting things rolling here. Big Jim and I are on tonight. We're going to talk about the week 7 so far here, a little update of how our seasons are going. We've got Austin Scheeren jumping on. He is his father is a big woods buck guy, and Austin is following in the tracks of his father. So Austin's going to get on here and tell us his story of the buck he shot this past weekend up in the big country of the Adirondacks. But first we'll talk a little bit about the Huntworks and our friends over there. They're the ones that are the title sponsor. Every time I say that, they just start Venmoing me money. It's like just the gift that keeps on giving. But all joking aside, the Dunningans have been a lot of fun to work with. They've got a great business over there, the Huntworks. We got a link up on the screen. You can click on that if you so desire, or just head on over to their website, thehuntworks.com. They are located in East Rochester. Have a nice little storefront there. Have a bunch of inventory of some quality portables, ladder stands, blinds, both ground blinds, elevated blinds, like the buck huts. We've got a few of those we're rocking this year. But I went on the website just to see what they had in inventory. Gun season opening up this weekend. It's ladder season time. It's portable time. And so they do have some Millennium and River's Edge ladder stands left in stock, it looks like. And they also have, on the portable side of things, they've got a bunch of River's Edge and Millennium portables available. Yeah, haven't had enough to drink.
I'll tell you what, Dad put together that River's Edge ladder stand.
Yeah.
That is
the lockdown.
It's probably some of the highest quality shit I've seen out of a ladder stand.
Yeah, Dad was blown away. He said that thing is freaking incredible.
They got the handrail and the foot rail. They fold into your platform, so if you don't want them, they're all out of the way.
Really?
It's just a very neat design how they put that together.
It's awesome. Yeah, that ladder stand looked. I can't wait to check that out. And he put it in a pretty badass spot. I'm excited to. Somebody sits there this weekend. Somebody's gonna have a crack at something. I know that.
Yeah, I'll probably sit that all weekend just so he can enjoy the stand that he put up.
Yeah, it sounds like unless you're Dad, 2 people could fit in it.
Yeah. No, I think the other thing I could do is probably just go get it from where he put it because it's probably a stupid spot, and I'll just put it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's fine. And yeah, that's just move it, and then he can buy another one and put another one there. Yeah. But I wanted to hit on the Millennium M50. I think that's the stand you're running, right? You seem to like that quite a bit.
I have the M50 and the M60.
Okay.
Bigger fan of the M60. It's about another $100, but I'm finding that it drops on the tree a little more level. I've put that M50 up a couple of times now, and it seems like it wants to sit sideways a little bit.
Okay.
You got to have the bracket just right, and I've tried loosening it in the bracket to try to get the base straight, but I didn't have that problem with the M60. The M60 is light, easy to handle, drops right in, holds right to the tree nice. But yeah, the M50 is the same thing. It's just a little bit heavier, and the bottom part where it kicks into the tree is a little different. It's narrow, so I think it doesn't hug the tree quite as well, but they give you the ratchet strap for the bottom. If you throw that on there, it's good and tight. So
nice.
Definitely happy with that setup. I ran out Sunday and put the steel one up as a full-time setup, and then I set up another set of sticks and bracket so I can kind of run and gun with the aluminum. So
nice.
Excited about that. Yeah.
I've sat in a lot of portables and ladder stands this year. I'm kind of, it's weird. I've bbeen using my saddle as my harness, so if that counts as being a saddle hunter, I don't know, but
I've been using my harness as my saddle. Does that count as a saddle hunter?
sure does. We're swapping roles, Jimbo. That's what we're doing.
The same thing here.
Yeah, pretty much. Except for one of us is killing deer and the other one isn't. So that's a whole nother story.
I wasn't gonna rub it in after your fucking cry fest the other day.
It felt good to let that out, and to tell you what, that was one of the most quickly downloaded episodes that I've put out in a long time. So I don't know what to take from that. Whether people just like it being 20 minutes long and not an hour and a half, or what, I don't know. But whatever, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I can't calculate that one in my head, but
nope. Well, I see we've got Austin in the waiting room here, so we'll jump him right in, and we'll have a little three-way chat and hear the story about his buck from this past weekend up in the Adirondack. So let me get him promoted. There he is. Austin's jumping on. Can you hear us, Austin?
Billy's probably screwing it up on you, Austin. Hold with us.
No, I'm not. I've done nothing. Maybe that's a problem.
What did you do last week when this was all messed up with JT? Because it's probably the same thing.
Nothing.
There he is.
There he is. Oh, he got an orange hat on?
Is he hunting right now?
Yeah. Are you in a box blind sleeping? The hell? This is quality entertainment right here. Austin, are you in trouble? Are you captive somewhere?
Do we need to send the police?
Yes. Oh, now you're muted. Now you're unmuted. Oh. This is Radio
I feel
Gold.
like I'm in a horror movie.
Yeah, this is Radio Gold. You know, your dad wouldn't do something like this. He'd be well prepared, Austin.
Austin, are you with us? Are you out there?
He's probably looking through his Skinner peep site.
Probably just had a big buck go by.
Yep. Austin, if you can hear me, I'm going to remove you, and then you can try to call back in. How about that? We'll have him try again. So how's things going with Jay? Is he doing? He's going to have his little procedure on Friday, get his tubes in. Everything going good?
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So hopefully that all goes well, and you can dip up to camp afterwards.
Yeah, it's been a rough month and a half, 2 months for you, and just about everybody else who's got young kids. It seems like everybody's been sick, and
damn good thing I killed my buck when I did. That's for sure.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been knock on wood, it's been good here around the Harvey house as far as that goes, but
that's why you're not killing any deer.
Yeah, I know.
You got to push property lines a little bit here and there.
Do you? Yeah. Property lines in your house. Yeah. Meaning leave the property.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, he's struggling. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, where should we go from here?
Those guys are cutting tonight. Adam texted me.
Yeah.
His buck weighed 148.
Wow. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, so he put his horns next to my Euro. And, I mean, his buck's definitely a little bigger than mine is.
Wow. How wide? Do you know how wide his was?
No, I think it was probably only 14 or 15.
Gee, I mean, freaking trail camera pictures are so deceiving. That's like
I was talking to him today, and I was like, we might have both shot 2.5-year-old deer. I mean, there's nothing saying that those are 3.5-year-old deer.
Yeah, I mean, the body on yours, that's hard to believe you'd have a 2-year-old that's 190 pounds.
That's a farm-fed deer, and
I know.
If he ain't really active in the rut, then, you know, I don't feel like over there they're chasing that hard because they got so many does they don't have to fight for it as much.
Right. But you said there wasn't much fat on him, did you?
No, there wasn't a ton. But he also didn't run down to nothing, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, his body was huge, but like I told Adam, unless we're pulling the jaws and sending them out. We don't know what the hell age they are.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the wear a little bit and kind of tell whether they're whether they're 3 or 4 years old. I mean, if a 2-year-old's going to have hardly any wear, you start to have some more wear in the back. I mean, we've looked at a lot of teeth at when we were cutting deer at the farm, and you kind of get to look at a lot of them and see the trends and the consistency and the wear patterns. But that all depends too on, what they're eating. Are they browsing? Are they eating rocks half the time? Chewing on that stuff. So acorns are much harder on the teeth than corn or soybeans. Alfalfa. So that's interesting. 145 pounds. I mean, that's basically what we end up getting up there. Very rarely do we have a buck that weighs up over 160 pounds. I mean, look at Frankenbeans last year. What'd he weigh?
160 something, maybe.
Yeah, which is, I mean, we figure he was a 5 or 6 year old, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they might just run smaller body down there.
Yeah.
But I gotta believe that deer is 3.5 years old. I mean, even if you put Adam's next to mine, it seems like it has a little more heft to it.
Right. Austin, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Jesus.
We got you now. Okay.
This thing was going downhill real quick.
Yeah, we were treading water, just making up stuff.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
I just got out of welding school, so I'm in my truck and trying to figure all this out last minute.
Oh, you're in your truck. Okay, that makes sense. We were worried about you. We thought you were trapped somewhere. Somebody had abducted you, but wanted to make sure you were on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, Austin Scheeren is your name. Go ahead and kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, and then I'm very interested to hear the story about your buck, but also kind of chat a little bit about how the season's been up in the North Country. I've been wanting to get somebody on from up north just to kind of hear how the season's gone so far. We don't talk too much about stuff up in that area. It's more farmland and, our quote-unquote big woods down here, but you guys are really doing it up there in the North Country. So how's it been going?
It's been going good. I feel like the deer movement has been kind of off this season a little bit. I'm not really seeing them in fields, and I'm not seeing them in the woods, and there's not feed for them in the woods. We don't have a lot of acorns out this way this year. But I'm actually from the Capital District. I'm from just outside of Troy. But we always travel north whenever we have time or there's snow, especially when there's snow.
Yep.
So I actually, the other day before I went up north, I figured I got home. I was like, after a long day, I was like, I'm going to go up north tomorrow. They're getting snow. I'm pretty excited. It's the first time I've had a chance to track this year. And I go to bed. 20 minutes later, I get a phone call. I get called into work. And I'm like, well, I'm still going to go. So I throw my clothes in the truck, throw my gun in the truck. I go to work. I leave work at 4:30 in the morning, drive 2 hours north, and go right in the woods. So it was a long day, to say the least, but it was pretty good. I mean, it was the conditions were good. We had some snow, but it was melting pretty quick. Early, even 9 o'clock, there was a lot of bare spots, and you could tell it was melting out real fast. But I went to a spot that we've gone to a lot over the last probably 3-4 years. But I went to the backside and different access point. Figured I'll go this way, and I know there's a couple signpost rubs down in there, so I walked in, milled around. Just when there's snow, I don't waste time. I just start walking, and I really put on some miles because I just want to cover ground. And I ended up seeing some tracks that were decent, but they were either too small or they were big but old. From the night before, and with the snow melting fast, I just knew I didn't have a whole lot of time to catch them. So I kept going, and I'm almost to the next signpost rub, and I catch a track, and it looks like he's got big feet. He's got a pretty wide stagger. His stride was pretty long, but I just kind of chalked that up to him moving pretty quickly, chasing does. He was kind of zigzagging a lot. But even for usually when their stride lengthens out and they start moving quick, their stagger, gets a little smaller, but it didn't. So I was like, all right, well, definitely, seems like a good sized deer for sure. But it was it was a tough go of it. Like, I actually had some concerns as I was going along if I was even going to be able to catch him or not, because there was a lot of bare spots, and I couldn't really gauge how fast he was going, because the track was basically just a track. Like, there wasn't really any character to it or any little information bits. So
now, when you say
I
that,
ended up
you mean like something like the deer's track is easily identifiable? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, like so I could tell it was his track because it was bigger than the other little tracks that were around. But really, like, a lot of times when you have better snow, you can tell if they're moving fast. You can tell if they're feeding better. Like, if they start feeding more, you know they're going to slow down. They're going to want to lay down.
Mm-hmm.
So when they want to slow down, that's when you want to slow down. So I really couldn't gauge if he was just lighting out for the next county, chasing does, or if he was, going to go lay down. So I just did what I could. I couldn't actually track him that fast because his track was hard to read. Because, like I said, it was like 50 foot of snow and then a big bare spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to either run a big circle around it to catch his track again, or I'd have to, like, start bare ground tracking him. And he was just heavy enough and everything was just wet enough to where I could kind of do it, but it was a slow go of it. But I knew I had all day. So the only thing I was racing was the snow. And he was heading right down towards the lake that's right there. So I was like, well, worst case scenario, he's going to hit the lake and either go way back up the hill or he's going to go along the lake one way or the other. So, he couldn't get too far. But I just kept going and going and going. And I don't know, I probably caught his track 9:30 or so. But the farther we kept going down the hill and kept getting closer to the lake, there's, more hemlock, more spruce trees, less snow on the ground. The air's a little warmer down by the lake, so the snow was really melting out pretty bad. As we got down there, like I'm within 100 yards of the lake, and there's like no snow. I'm bare ground tracking at this point, and it's like painstakingly slow. Like, I'm really almost ready to give up because it just becomes like counterproductive at some points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost would have been smart to just start, still hunting a little bit, grunting and trying to get him to come back to me. But I didn't know if he was there or not because I wasn't exactly quiet. Like, I was doing my best, but it was tough because I had to, like, kind of move around a lot to try to keep on his track. And, oh, was this it? No, that's not it. Oh, is this it? Nope, that's not it. So I was making a lot of motion. Like I said, I was up all day the day before, all night working. I drove up there. I threw my stuff on. I jumped in the woods. So I didn't even have cover scent on me. I didn't even descent myself. I just walked in the woods. So I stunk like a human. And we get down to the lake, and I'm maybe 30 yards from the water. I can just kind of see it through the trees a little bit. I've been in this spot before, and I know it's a good spot for deer. I've caught tracks in there before, so I'm like, well, he's either right here or he already heard me, winded me, or saw me, and he's gone. So I looked to my right. I thought he might have gone that way. But I looked to my left, and there's like a little mound of just, junk, dirt, whatever, and a little spruce tree next to it. But there's a little gap in between. And I'm looking at it, and I think I see a track in the middle of it. So I walk up, and I'm looking, and I glance up, and from my right to my left, he comes out of the spruce trees at about 6 yards. Like, he's on top of me. He's like 15 feet away. And I was like, I was more shocked by a deer at that point than I've ever been in my life. Like, I couldn't believe it because all I saw was this big body, big red antlers from rubbing on hemlocks. And I just pulled the gun up. He walked behind a little spruce tree. He never saw me, I was pretty surprised. I figured he'd step out, kind of look at me and be just as surprised as I was, but he never even looked at me. I think he was just chasing does because he was walking with some pace. And so I pulled up. He walked behind the spruce. As he popped out, I cocked the hammer on my Marlin, and he still didn't. He heard the click, but he never even stopped. I'm assuming he heard it anyways, but
yeah,
he just kept walking. I touched one off. I took out both front shoulders. He went right down, and he ended up rolling around a little bit, and I walked around and get a better angle, and I put another one in him just to finish him off because I high-lunged him, but he was fighting it pretty good, so I didn't want to. I don't like doing that.
No, and you're right there, so just take care of the job, right?
Yeah, just finish it.
There's nothing worse than assuming it's over and then having it not be over.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I have some video, not quite at a first shot, and I was pretty upset with it because I normally have my GoPro on, it was on me, but I didn't have it turned on. And because like I said, I didn't have that much confidence that he was still there. I figured I had spooked him out long before. But so when I took the first shot, he went down. I reached back quick, turned a GoPro on, and then I just kept the beat on him for a second because I've had that happen. Drop deer, and you're like, oh, okay, and then they pop up and take off, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I just kept the beat on him for a second. He rolled over, and I could tell he wasn't getting up. I'm like, all right, well, I must have taken out the shoulder, so I put it back on half cock, walked up a little bit, and figured out that he wasn't going quick. So I just moved around, took another shot, and he was done. Picked up my shell casings and did my thing. Took me a minute to kind of compose myself. Actually, I set my bag down and my rifle down and just took a minute because this is what's that?
How far was he when you first saw him?
6
yards.
6 yards. Jim, were you paying attention? What the shit, Jim?
I might have blacked out.
Yeah, you were texting somebody.
It's all right. I could probably spotty, but yeah, it was 6 yards. Like he was super close. Like I probably could have done it without sights on the gun.
That's
you
wild.
know what I mean?
Yeah, that's wild.
But
my brother-in-law could miss that shot. I seen him try to shoot him from the hip. He's like, ow, with a scope. I don't know how he was looking through it, but
at that range, a scope might be more detrimental.
I know.
You see brown
without a doubt.
But so, it was really overwhelming. This is actually my first Adirondack deer.
Is it really?
I've shot a lot of deer over the years. Last year I shot my first buck with a bow actually, and it was the biggest buck I shot. Nice 6-pointer. He was 162 pounds.
Nice.
And that was actually a southern zone deer. I shot him. We have a chunk of land, about 80 acres out by Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some big deer over there, and I shot him on the last weekend the last day I could hunt during bow season. So I was pretty happy about that. But I've been going up north with my dad since I was 14, I think. I think it was on early muzzleloader when I was 14, I think was the first time I ever went up north. And I hated it. I loved it, but exhausting. Like it beat me up pretty good. And as a kid, you get pretty bored. You know what I mean? You just feel like it's pointless. You're just walking around in the mountains. But I'd always go back. You go home, you shower up, you eat dinner, you start thinking about it. And next weekend, he'd be like, hey, you want to go? And I'm like, absolutely. Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So I'm 25 now. I started when I was 14. It's been 11 years, and it finally all came together. And the last couple weeks, I've actually had a tragedy in the family. So with all that going on, my season's been tough so far. I've been busy with work and school and everything else. So, to have it finally all come together, it kind of, it hit me pretty hard. So I just kind of set my bag down, set my rifle down, sat down, and just enjoyed the moment because I knew I also had a long drag ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to, talking about, I know your dad had said last week, 'cause I'd reached out to him and he said you guys were going through some stuff. And so thoughts with you and your family on all that. But there is something about that, like when you're just grinding and then all of a sudden it comes together and you're just like, like it's just like it means so much more than, yes, you have a deer sitting in front of you, but you've been working hard or you've got stuff going on in your life, and it's like it's that one moment that like everything comes together, and it's just it's a deep special moment. Sitting there next to that deer, and it's cool to do it in a way by yourself too, because you can actually sit and there's no rush. You can enjoy that moment as long as you want.
Yep. So and that's it. Like last year I shot that buck with the bow, and that meant the world to me because I had probably spent the past 3 years prior to that, and I passed up probably 24 bucks, and they were all pretty small spikes, little 4 points, basket 6 or 2. But I just decided probably when I was 21 or so that I just wanted to shoot big deer. Like I wanted to, I wasn't younger anymore, and there's nothing wrong with shooting smaller deer. I don't condemn anyone for doing that. If that's what they want, then by all means go for it. But I wanted to hold out for a bigger deer, and it ended up coming together after 3 years of waiting and hunting my ass off, and finally I did it with the bow. And the bow's always plagued me. I'm a terrible bow hunter. I get wicked target panic. I don't have time to practice properly. My form's probably terrible. but I was able to do it, and I was happy with it, and that was great. You know, it was my first bigger deer, and then so this year to do it this way, like this is the ultimate, you know, goal for me. Like it doesn't get better than tracking a deer, especially in some of the worst tracking conditions you can have, and to make it happen at such a close range. Like all around, it was a huge victory for me, and I couldn't be happier. The only thing I wish is I wish my dad was here for it. He, you know, I'm glad I did it myself, and I would have been happy if he was hunting nearby and could have came and just celebrated with me. But him and my uncle, they're up in Maine for the week. Nice. And they're having a good time up there. They've seen some real big deer up there and had some close opportunities. So I think, you know, before the week is out, at least one of them, I think, will get one.
Cool. Do they have snow up there right now?
Yeah, they did. Kind of like I had.
Like we did,
a little
yeah.
spotty. Yeah, but it was tough. I mean, I think it might have melted out today a little bit. It's going to get a little warmer tomorrow, but I think they'll probably end up getting a little bit more. Up there, you get a little more snow earlier.
Yep. So let's talk about the drag, because this whole thing fascinates me. I don't get it. Let's just talk through that a little bit. I mean, I understand why people drag them out, but I'm interested in how the drag went for you, because you were alone. I don't know how far you were, what the lay of the land was, if it was a lot of up and downhill, but let's just talk through the drag. I want to hear your thoughts on that whole thing.
Yeah. So like I said, we've hunted this area before. Normally we park on one end of the lake. I ran around to the other end of the lake and parked there on this specific day. And I pulled up my Onyx because I had the map saved, the offline maps and stuff. And I have my Garmin inReach with me too, so I can actually send satellite text messages. So I let everyone know that I had one. And I asked my brother if he could come up and help me, actually. So he said, yep, I'll be there. I just got to run home, change quick, and head up. So I knew he was going to be about 2.5, 3 hours. So this was, I actually texted him a little later because I was like, I got it. And then I got into it a little bit, and I'm like, all right, maybe I don't got it. So I looked on Onyx to go back to my truck. It was all uphill with some ravines. I had to cross 2 rivers, and it was a giant nightmare, and it was about 2.5 miles.
Jesus.
So I figured, well, if I go to the other side, it's about 1.5 miles, and there's some smaller ravines and smaller rivers, but it's still uphill, but it's at least 1 mile shorter. And I can get him up to the trail, and once he's on the trail, it definitely goes a lot easier. But like I said, we were losing snow fast, which kind of sucks because, you know, those deer slide like a toboggan on the snow compared to bare ground. It's like trying to pull an anvil through the woods. So I took my time. I settled down. You know, I dressed him out, took some pictures. You know, did all that kind of stuff because I had the GoPro, so I could set that up, do some video and pictures and whatnot. And then I took a rope that I always have with me. I tied it around his feet, tied his feet up by his head, tied it around his antlers, and then I tied the other end to a stick, you know, crossways. And then basically, like, you ever been to the gym and been on the rowing machine?
Mm-hmm.
No. Nope. It was that for about 5.5 hours.
Jimmy, no. Really, it was just, you know, pull, stretch your leg, you know, like that motion there.
Yep. Just back up, pull, back up, pull. It's all the way up out of this hole.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I started dragging. I shot him. So I got his track at 9:30. I shot him about 11:15, 11:20. By the time I, you know, got him all dressed out and I was cleaned up and I was ready to go and set up, it was about noon. And I ended up getting up to the trail probably, I think, about 3:30. So it was about 3.5 hours to get him up to the trail. I knew my brother was going to be there about 4 o'clock. So I texted him on the inReach. I told him where I was going to be. He knows the area, so he's like, all right, I'll be up there. So I'm dragging down the trail a little bit. He pops out, and I'm like, man, I couldn't be happier to see you right now because I was hurting.
Yeah.
And this is Monday, and I'm still hurting today. Like I went to get out of bed today, and I was like half crippled.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Did he bring any bush lattes for you or anything?
He should have.
Yeah.
He should have, because I could have used it. But and then, like I said, I was up all night the night before and the day before, so I was just smoked. And we get him out, And then luckily he actually came up, because my original plan was to try to catch a ride with somebody from the one spot back to my truck, which is about 4.5 miles on the road. And I didn't want to leave the deer there by himself at the one parking area. But so luckily he was there, so I could drag it out to his car. We could leave the deer there for 15 minutes, go get my truck, come back. And he helped me load it up and stuff. But it was, we got him out about 5:30. So it was dark for a good, 45 minutes before we got him out.
Wow.
But it was tough. And like, there's different ways to do it. Like, I really contemplated throwing him on my back and just carrying him out that way, because it probably would have been easier to just carry with extra weight. But
Right.
I get a little nervous with that. I could have draped my jacket over him because I had a red wool coat on. But
Oh, right. Yeah.
I get a little nervous of people shooting me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a little freaked out, especially up there, because you don't have a lot of opportunities. You get quick glimpses, little flashes. So if somebody just sees that bobbing through the woods, they might just not think twice and go for it.
No, that definitely is.
So
Definitely
there's
is
a lot
concern.
of guys that have done it over the years where they've carried deer out. Most people drag them. Some people quarter them, but in the Northeast, you don't see a lot of people quartering deer out. They want to weigh them. They want the drag. They want the whole deer.
So here's a bold strategy. I was thinking about this today because we were going to have this discussion. Wouldn't it be easier to carry just a little rope, block and tackle, and a freaking digital scale so you can get your weight and then not kill yourself? Because, we quarter everything, and we never did that until I went out west, and then I started hunting with my in-laws, and everything we shoot now, if it's not something we can drive a four-wheeler to, we quarter it, put it in game bags, and put it in our backpacks, and just hike out. So I see everybody in the Adirondacks in the Northeast and kind of that culture of, hunting for that 200-pound deer. So I understand why it's so important, but it's like, God damn, it's like, that is brutal. You guys going so far. Like, I shoot deer in some of these spots, and it's like, why would you? I don't even want to drag him. It's downhill. I couldn't imagine doing that. Having to go over in the river and through the woods to Granny's house. That just sounds brutal.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess it's an old style of hunting. So I guess it's just an old mindset, and it's an old way to doing things, and it's kind of like a rite of passage almost. Because before you had tree stand hunting and blind hunting and all that, people still hunted and they tracked. That's what the Native Americans did. That's what the early settlers did, and that's what people did right up until about 70s and 80s. They did deer drives and still hunting and that kind of thing. So it was a little different. I don't know. I guess it's just it's something about putting a full deer in your truck at the end of the day, because as much as that was terrible and it almost killed me, it was worth it at the end of the day. It's always a good problem to have when you got to drag a deer 2 miles. You know what I mean?
No, and you feel a sense of accomplishment. Like, it feels good. I get it. I don't know. I can't imagine imagine going that
right.
far.
That
like,
probably
that's
would be
brutal.
A great idea. It probably would be a great idea to bring a little scale and rig them up and weigh them out right there. That's really, I didn't think of that before.
That's going to be that's our pert near pro tip for you. Hunt smarter, not harder.
Can be digital scales. It weighs like a pound or less, and you just throw that in your pack with a rope, and
I'll have to do that one of these days, and then when somebody asks me like, "Wow, what the hell is that?" I'll be like, "Well, that's your pert near pro tip."
Pert near pro tip. Don't freaking kill yourself. Yeah. Yeah, it's so
it was overall a good day, and I was, like I said, it broke me down a little bit. I was pretty emotional over it, but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
No, it's awesome.
I would say my biggest one for that was 2 years ago when I found out I was going to be a father. Nobody else knew yet, but I knew it was my last season of hunting nonstop with no obligations. And it was literally like the last hike to the top of the hill with 1.5 feet of snow and an hour and a half sit and have one deer come up behind me, and it was a buck. And I dropped him right in his tracks at 30 yards. And like, I didn't even reload the muzzle loader. I just I could have thrown the gun out of the tree. I was just like, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh my freaking God, that just happened. And you'd been grinding for it just nonstop.
Yeah. Well, I know the feeling too, because my wife is pregnant. So
oh, congratulations.
This is my last free hunting season.
Yes, it is. Yes,
thank you.
It is.
I'm pretty excited. She's due in April, so.
Nice.
That was good timing, sir. So you must have been she got pregnant in July, August-ish, right?
Yep.
July.
We found out that we were having a baby on our wedding anniversary, which is July 22nd.
Okay. Yeah, because we had our daughter in May. I got lucky. I shoot very accurate, and it was first try both times, and perfect timing in one in July, one in May, so it didn't affect, like I was born November 9th. Like Dad was not, he was not thinking. No. But
I totally get it.
He still shot $2 that year.
Yep. My brother was born in November, and same thing. Like I think he was there for when my brother was born, but basically left to hunt after that.
Yeah. It was a different day, man. Our women today don't keep up with, they don't allow that shit to happen.
My wife's a hunter too, and she loves it and everything, and she supports me. Like she cried when I told her about deer. She cried.
Yeah,
she cried last year, like, cause she knows how important this is to me and how hard I work for it, and that it just means everything to me. And but my dad was the same way. Like growing up, I play sports and stuff, and like all fall long, he'd go to every sporting event, everything I wanted to do, except for like it was always like the playoffs or sectionals or whatever. Would fall right on like opening weekend of rifle.
Right.
And he was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Well, he was in the woods. The deer were seeing him.
Yeah.
Or trying to avoid him.
Yep. Yeah. He was, I'd get the Friday night, good luck tomorrow. I love you. I'll see you when I get home.
Yeah, exactly. The whole big woods and tracking culture, I had your dad on the podcast probably last September-ish, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I remember listening to it.
And I just, like, I am fascinated by it. Because we're in the Finger Lakes here. Our hunting camp, we have 100 acres. Our neighbors have a bunch of property. So we love to get out and still hunt and stuff. But, like, the actual, like, big woods tracking portion of it and, like, learning how to be a tracker and how to read a track and how to, like, Jimmy and I have followed in Dad's footsteps since we were old enough to get out and walk in the snow and follow him around. But, like, some of the little intricacies of the stuff that, to hear, guys like Haleblood talking about, and I'm in the process of reading through your dad's book, and it's really fascinating to just, like, hear different things and to pick up on different things like the stagger, like dragging their toes and stuff like that, like just how to read the track and what they're trying to do. Are they slowing down? Are they kind of wandering? I guess for you, it's got to be kind of fun because it sounds like based on your age that from your dad's stories, you were he was really getting into the tracking stuff kind of right around the time you were probably born-ish, right? Or maybe a little after?
Yeah, so he went up north to Maine, and he went up there for a week with Hal in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in 96, so I was 10.
Yep.
And he's always been kind of a tracker, but he never hunted too much in the north. He would go and hunt around Lake George and stuff like that, and then he would hunt like the farmland, Scotticoke and just our local farmland stuff. But he didn't have a lot of time. He was building a business, so he always kind of wanted to get into tracking, but he didn't have the time or the money. And then in 2006, he ended up getting some money, and the business was doing good. So he's like, you know what, I'm going up north with Hal, and I'm going to learn everything I can from him. So he shot so much that summer, getting ready to go up north. He basically shot the barrel out of his 7600. Like that thing like turned into like a huge hex for him. Like it didn't shoot straight, and it would the barrel would like reseat itself every time, and it got hot, and it would be off, and it was a whole nightmare. But he basically shot the barrel out of it. So he probably put 1,000 rounds through it in the summer. And so he goes up north, goes up there with Hal, learns a lot from him, and then from there it was on. Every fall he was in the Adirondacks, whether there was snow or no snow. He's either still hunting and honing that skill, or he was tracking and honing that skill. Like, I'm a terrible still hunter. Like, I'm not terrible. I can do it, and I don't enjoy it that much. I'd much rather be tracking. So it's hard. Like, early season, I almost rather bow hunt down here than still hunt up there.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the day. I guess it depends how I feel and if I have energy or not. But I've been so tired lately. Bow hunting in a stand sounds a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a mindset too. Like it's hard to move slow for that long.
Yeah, you got to be in the right mindset to do it that day. Like it's like, okay, today's a still hunt day. Like I'm locked in. You have to be in that mindset.
Yep. You got to mentally prepare for it and push yourself. Once you do it and you get into it, and it's a lot easier. But like I said, so I was 10 when that happened. So he had about 4 years, 3-4 years before I was old enough to hunt. And then I started going up with him all the time. Like if I didn't have something going on, he would ask me, hey, you want to go? And I'd go if I could, because I love doing it. And I would just love being with him and learning. And especially once we had snow, like I just remember all the different tracks and, you know, some of the best days, some of the best tracking days, best conditions, he would bring me along, you know, 14, 15, 16 years old. And I was a pretty, you know, decent little hunter, but I was a kid at the time, and you're doing kid things, and it's not, you know, your number one passion. So, you know, we'd get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he would know, looking at the track, that we're super close to this deer, and I'm over there just tired as hell, stomping through the woods. He gave me the nickname Thunderfoot because I just would start crashing around. Like, you know, I just wanted to be at the truck. I'd get the truck in my head and just want to be out. And then I'd want to go back up the next weekend. So we did that for a number of years. Then I started tracking on my own and hunting up there on my own once I learned how to navigate really well. And that's pretty much what we did. But yeah, like he had a little bit of a head start on me, and obviously he hunted for a lot of years ahead of me, but he had a little bit of a tracking head start. But we learned a lot together. Like he was trying to teach me things while he was still learning things, and it kind of prolonged the experience for both of us a little bit. But he shot multiple bucks in the Adirondacks. He shot a nice buck up in Maine 2 years ago. And the guy's a hell of a hunter, and it's just, he doesn't give himself enough credit. He's a really good hunter, and he's the most driven guy I've ever met in my life. He does not take no for an answer, and he does not have a bad attitude about anything. He's always positive.
Yeah. That's a good environment to grow up and learn in. And that's pretty cool that's a unique thing really for you and your dad to kind of learn something together. You know, like Jimmy and I came up, I mean, like I said, you know, we've been following right along in Dad's footsteps, but like I'm trying to learn new ways of hunting that Dad doesn't, you know, Dad was never a mobile hunter. Obviously that was never a thing, you know, so I'm trying to learn that and how to be effective bouncing around and doing different things, you know, like Dad's of that generation where it's, you know, still hunting. Like he'll hike up that hill that's a half a mile and it'll take him 4 hours to do it. You know, like that's his skill. Like he can just creep through the woods. So like that's a thing that Jimmy and I have for sure. We know how to do that. We've done that with him time and time again, him and my Uncle Mike in particular. But you know, like I think a lot of times people get they get like tracking confused with still hunting. It's two different things. You know, still hunting, you're creeping along trying to catch something bedded over an edge, or you know, you're hoping to catch something just moving or creep up on something somewhere. With, you know, the more and more I listen to the tracking stuff and the techniques and how you're going about, I mean, you are just turning and burning. Like you are not wasting time. You're trying to find what you're looking for. Once you get it, you're going to get on it and then judge it from there. And I guess you keep talking about like knowing the track, like how when you're close, you know, your dad knows, oh, okay, we're close to this track. Like what's something that you're keying on when you are following a track? Let's say you've got, you know, decent fresh snow that you can kind of tell, like what's a telltale sign that you are getting close to a track?
So usually,
or to a deer.
I might take it a little slow for the first maybe 100 yards or two, because then it gives me a feel for what he's doing. If he's just walking in a straight line and his strides spread out a little bit and he's just, you know, he's not really meandering, he's just going straight line. He's just chasing does, or he's trying to get to a bedding area, or he's trying to get to food, and he's not slowing down. So he's moving faster than you are. So you got to try to match his pace and just try to cover as much ground as possible to soak up the time. And usually the first sign that you have that he's going to slow down is he'll be going, and all of a sudden he'll either go right or he'll go left, and he'll make an abrupt direction change. And usually that's the first sign, and or he starts feeding. once you see him start eating, mushrooms, or he starts pawing the ground a little bit, or he starts meandering and kind of wandering back and forth a little bit. He's not so much going in a straight line, but he's wandering. And then you're getting close. You're probably within a couple 100 yards of him. He might start hooking trees. Like as he's walking, he might hook a little, a beach whip or something and break a branch off because he's tired. Because you know how these deer get this time of year, middle of the rut, towards the end of the rut, they're just dogged right out. They're tired, they're skinny, they're scrawny, they got nothing left in the tank, and they just want to lay down.
When you say hooking, you're saying like you're grabbing a beach limb or something and snapping it off with their horns. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they get lazy.
Yeah.
So instead of wandering their head around it, they might just hook into it and then just, oh man, kind of pull their antler quick and it'll, break a little piece off or something of that sort.
Yep. And I would assume that
track can tell you.
I'm assuming that you learn a lot, and you probably you learn when you are that close because you end up jumping them or, right? I mean, it's not like, I guess it can happen to anybody the first time you end up perfectly following a track, but a lot of times you're learning from the mistake. It's a learning
process. Every deer is different. Every deer has different tendencies. Like my dad had a deer where he wouldn't want to get his feet wet. If he got to a little bowl where like the ground had some standing water in it, he would go around it. Every puddle he'd go around. He didn't want to get his feet wet.
That's funny.
Some deer are peculiar, and you learn a lot too. Like each track will tell you something different. Sometimes the track might have a shorter toe on one foot than the other. A lot of the times, if you have snow that's probably a good, 5-6 inches, 4 inches, when he might paw the ground and then put his head down to eat, and you can actually see the antler marks in the snow.
I've been looking for that for a couple of years, and I have yet to find a deer that's. I had a spot this past winter. We had a lot of snow. We probably had a couple foot of snow, and there was these like little creek drainages that were coming out of this ridge, and they were full of just the creek was like full of acorns. So the deer were just like coming down in there at night and just hogging holes and just digging for acorns. And I had pictures of bucks in there that I thought had good enough racks that I'd be getting tine marks. So I'm like walking around like looking for sheds and looking for spots where their tines might be rubbing, and there's nothing. I never saw that, but that's always something I'm looking for because I've heard guys talk about that if you see tine rubbing, you got a pretty good sized buck that you're following.
Yep. And sometimes it's faint. Sometimes it's real hard to see, and you might even overlook it. It looks like, maybe a piece of snow fell off the tree and it just indented the snow. Mm-hmm. But another thing too, to judge them, when you're following them, pay attention to where they go. If they're going between, two trees that are, say, a foot and a half apart or something like that, or, two smaller trees, then, maybe his rack isn't too big. Or if he ducks under a blowdown instead of jumping over it, then maybe his rack's not too tall. But if you got something that's, 20 inches to 2 foot wide and he stops and you see him go around it, then he probably has got some big headgear because he can't fit.
That's fascinating.
That's a lot of little things that you just don't even think about as a tree stand hunter.
No.
Listen, I never thought of them either. And there's still things I see where I'm like, really? Did he really do that? Like, it's pretty cool stuff. But, like, I'll tell you guys straight up, if y'all ever want to go up north and try it out, and you're more than welcome to come up with me, whether I have a tag still or not. Like, this year, like, my tag's gone, so I'm probably going to go up with my brother and work with him and videotape him. And if you guys ever this year, next year, years down the road want to go up and want to go with me, then you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Bringing people.
Yeah, I think
I love teaching people.
That's a bucket list thing for me to do. I think it's going to be, it's probably in my 5-year plan to let the kids get a little bit older and out of daycare and into school and just kind of simplify things a little bit. And you'll know all about that here in a year, in a very short order. Yeah, but absolutely. To have something like the Adirondacks here in our backyard. It's for me to get there from my house to the Adirondacks. Jimmy's in-laws live right on the outside of the park. We have a lot of, good opportunity to get up there, and we've bear hunted it. That's, our family has a lot of history bear hunting in the Adirondacks, but not so much deer. We're starting to kind of get, Jimmy can talk about that, but, muzzleloader is something that our family's gotten into, but I would love to get up and do some tracking up in that big country. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so
It's a fun experience for sure.
We're like right on the west side of the park, and
Okay.
it's a lot of state land still there, and it's
like Old Forge, kind of that area.
no
or
further west.
further west, like Boonville.
Yeah, Boonville-ish.
Okay.
Just south of Boonville, there's a lot of hills there.
Yep.
And a couple of real big tracts of state land, and my father-in-law butts right up to one of them. So, and my uncle's got a camp right up the road from my father-in-law. And it is definitely like we do that early muzzleloader up there. And it took me a good 4 or 5 years of that just to get a doe on the ground. But I think we're going to try to head back up there for the last weekend of rifle up there. And hopefully they'll have some snow by then. We can do some running.
Yeah, it should. I mean, you start getting up on a Tug Hill Plateau, and you get a lot of that lake effect snow.
Yeah.
Like I know, generally, if I hunt anywhere around Old Forge or Inlet, they're generally going to have snow earlier than the rest of the park. We mainly hunt the Central Adirondacks. I went up to the high peaks, early in the season, right, like basically right when Northern Rifle opened up, and I didn't see anything with my brother, but my dad did. But he was up super high. He was like 3,000 feet up.
Wow.
And I talked to a couple guys, and that's what they said. Like when they're not chasing does and doing all that, they're generally, they'll come down lower at night, but during the day they go up above 3,000 feet, right around that line, and hang out there, bed down.
Well, you hit a lot of beaches you get up higher too, don't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of beach in Central Adirondacks and in the high peaks. It's high peaks are a whole different ball game. Like you don't have the swamps and the bogs that you do in the Central Adirondacks.
Right.
You do, but it's not as common. Like because everything's so tall. Where in Central Adirondacks you have some big hills and some mountains and stuff, but there's a lot of wetland, swamp. Yeah. Like it's pretty tough. I mean, a lot of spruce trees. You get them 6 foot tall clusters of spruce trees, and you're just getting beat up all day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my father-in-law.
And of course, the deer always take you in the hardest spot.
My father-in-law always jokes that he lives in a swamp on the hill.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just wet year-round.
Yep. It is.
Yep. So, listen, it sounds like that's a great spot to hunt. I mean, if you're near the plateau and you have some lake effect snow, and you have some space, because that's all you need to track. Like you can track where you guys live now as long as you have enough space.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the hardest part is when you get on a track and you're tracking until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it walks on the neighbor's property.
Right. Because
I've hunted some local, smaller state land down here, in Southern Zone, and it's fun, and it's great for people that I know that want to try it out a little bit, but they don't really know, or people that want to try it out, and I don't think that they're really going to like it in the mountains, big mountains. So it's fun, but you end up running out of state land, and it's kind of a bummer. That's why we go where we go, because it's we're hunting 45,000 acres of state land. Like you could walk for 2 days before you walk off that property.
And I'd be interested to, we don't have those massive pieces here, obviously, but we have some good sized state land pieces, but also, some of our private land that we have access to. There's a good amount of property there. And I wonder, it's definitely different here. It's not a wonder. It's a fact that, bucks don't have to travel, 3 miles to go find another doe or doe group. They can go, 400 yards away, and there could be a whole nother doe family living there or a bedding area. So they don't have to go as far, I guess is what I'm saying. So it'd be interesting to, to do that here and do some of that on these smaller tracts of property where the deer may not have to go as far to get to what they're trying to go to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Up north, you might get a deer that, he's doing, a 5-6 mile loop every day, and where Southern Zone, you might get a deer that's doing 1.5 miles,
right.
Because they don't have to go as far. There's just, everything's a little more cramped. There's more, like there's feed that's more accessible and more abundant, where up north they have to, travel from this mountain to that mountain for food, and then travel all the way over this mountain to this swamp to bed down. And it's just bigger, and that's what you really get a feel for when you're up there and you're doing it and you're way back and you're over. Once you get past that first ridge, you can't hear the road anymore.
Yeah.
when you can't hear the cars and you're in a swamp in the middle of nowhere and you have no, kind of perspective as to where you are, what direction you're even going. And you're like, wow, I'm out here.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had it up there before. I think, Billy, you were with me one time. We left the lunch spot. We went to find a corner of a bog, and we ended up getting all turned around.
Was that the year that we saw the bear? Me and you?
I believe so.
Yeah. That was out.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, we
easy to
left
get
the
turned
lunch
around.
spot.
That was out the Blackfoot Trail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of hairy back there. The trail just like and that's in September, so there's still a lot of foliage on. Things are really thick, like you can't see shit. And
Who got you out of there though?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did that loop. We came around and we came through that stuff. That was, I was like, man, we're gonna step right on a freaking bear or a mountain lion or freaking beaver or something.
Your little brother led you right out of there.
You did. I was scared. I ate all my snacks. I was scared to death. I had faith, and now look at me. I'm a freaking big backcountry wilderness hunter out west. Don't laugh at me, Jim. I don't want to hear shit out of you until you do what I've done. All right, I don't want to hear nothing.
I'd love to get out west.
I'm not dumb enough to do that.
I went out west about 10 years ago with the bow with my dad, and we were just hunting whitetails out in Montana, and we were out there for 9 days or so, and it was one of the best times of my life. Like, the country's so beautiful out there. It's so big. It's so open, and there's just deer everywhere. Like, we don't have that here. I sat in a blind for an hour and a half, and I saw 45 deer.
That's insane.
I haven't seen 45 deer in New York in my entire life.
Right.
So it was really cool, but I really would like to get out there for elk with a bow. Like, that's on my bucket list for sure.
It's pretty sobering, man. I mean, there's guys that are really good at it, and that's their life, and that's what they do. And there's guys who's it's their first time, and they stumble into them, and they get one. And I can tell you, it's that was this year was my first archery only elk focused hunt, and the past ones have been muzzleloader for both, or just mainly deer. And Jesus, I mean, elk hunting in the high country it's just no joke. I mean, you take 7 days in there living off your back, and elk that know that they're being hunted, and they go to the most impossible places to get to them. But it's like, it's one of those hunts, it's kind of like, reading these stories. Like, it's funny talking to you about this stuff because you're saying these stories, and I am literally reading them right now from your dad's perspective. So it's kind of cool to hear. So I feel like I know you already because of the stories that you're telling that are from your dad's book. But it's like you go and do these things, whether it is dragging that deer out by yourself for 2 miles, or if it's going and doing these hunts in the backcountry and being uncomfortable and doing stuff that is like totally outside of your realm, or, pushing yourself physically and mentally to try to grind through something. Like, you come back with this feeling of like, man, I can handle today. Like, today's nothing. It's like, I just didn't wash my hands or my butt for like 7 days, and I feel like fantastic, So you come home and it's like nothing really seems like that big of a deal anymore because you've done it. You've done hard stuff. You've lived through things that were really uncomfortable. And that's what the backcountry and these adventures teach you,
It's hard work, and I always seem to make, when it comes to hunting, I make everything as hard on myself as possible for some reason. Like, I prefer to hunt in the mountains and run my ass off all day long and put on 10, 12 miles. And when I'm in a tree stand, I prefer to have a bow just because it's harder to me. Like, I can sit there in a tree stand, I can shoot a deer with a rifle without much of a blink of an eye. I've shot a lot over the years, and my dad really, really like worked hard to make me a good shot and help me practice and learn. So that's always been great. But now I'm in a tree stand, I'm like, man, I want a bow. I want a little bit more of a challenge, and of course, I just got to make things harder on myself. But it's just, the harder you work at it and the bigger the challenge it is, the more rewarding. And that's what I've basically figured out my entire life, not just hunting, but hunting's just probably the best example because I choose to make my life miserable.
Right. Yeah. You could sit in a Millennium buck hut from the Hunt Works and, just wait for them to come out and roast them. But no, you're going to walk in 3-4 miles, and then you're going to shoot one, and then you're going to drag it like freaking erg machine for 7 hours. That makes perfect logical sense. You're gonna try the per near method.
Need equipment. I am the equipment.
Yeah, exactly. You're the tool.
So it's good. If I was to give any advice, not that I'm in much of a spot to give advice, but I was to give any advice on tracking, it's learn as much as you can, but don't overthink it, because you end up with all this information and all these different things, and it's all great stuff to know, but don't look for it that much. Like if you get on a track, let the track teach you. You know, you'll see stuff and you'll be like, hey, I remember reading about that, or I remember seeing this on a video. I remember this guy said that. And that's the best part, because you start piecing it all together and you start building that confidence, and then, you know, you bump a deer, you catch him, or you come up to a bed for the first time and you see running tracks coming out of it, and you're like, oh man, I was close enough where he could see me. You know, and that's some of the best stuff, because like I said, it's all great stuff to know, but if you get overloaded and you start overthinking it and you get stressed out, and then you start doubting yourself, and it's a hard thing to do. And there's people that have gone out and they've tracked 3 times in their life and they shoot a big buck, and that's awesome. That's great, and I'm glad, you know what I mean? But generally that's not how it goes. That's not how it goes any kind of hunting. You know what I mean? Generally you got to work for it, especially them big ones.
Yeah. I think that's a big theme that I feel like I've kind of ran into this year with all hunting in general, is you're getting so much information from so many different sources now that you sit there and have conversations with buddies or up at hunting camp, and it's like, you know, it gets to a certain point where you're starting to overthink this shit.
You end up not learning anything else.
Yeah.
Because you're so caught up on what you've already learned, and you're trying to think of it all, and then you're not gathering more information about what's going on in front of you. And it's plagued me forever. I know my dad says it in his book, even, like, he's like, it's too much sometimes, and you just got to kind of slow down, breathe, you know, take the track for what it is. You know, you can be the best tracker in the world, but if you don't have good luck on your side that day, then you're not going to get that deer. Like, yeah, all right, you can get close and stuff, but that deer might be in a spruce thicket and you have no shot at catching him without him winding you or seeing you and bailing out. But you also might catch him feeding. You might catch him sleeping. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's all luck. You just got to be lucky.
Right place, that right time.
Yep. It's all just, I'm trying to think of the right word, but just, you know, 2 points connecting, really.
Yep.
You know, at the right time, right place, like you said. And some days you just can't help it, because I've gotten really close and I'm like, man, what did I do wrong? And then I just think about it and I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I really didn't. He happened to see me first, and, you know, or the wind shifted bad, because when you're tracking, you can't control the wind. You can't use the wind to your advantage. If he's going to honestly, deer usually walk and they'll bed down where their backtrack wind is blowing in their face, so they can smell you coming. And, you know, geography plays a hand. Like, if you see him, he's going up a ridge and he's wandering back and forth and he's feeding a little bit, like, stop moving. Like, take one step every 5 minutes, because I guarantee you he's laying down on the top of that ridge looking right at you. So it's little things like that and experiences, and, you know, but you don't want to panic about it. You know what I mean? You're going to make mistakes, and everyone does. And, you know, it doesn't matter who you are.
Have you guys ever, I'm just thinking about that scenario, because that's one that we can relate to pretty well. You know, you got a track of a buck that's heading up the hill. Have you guys ever, backed out and then gone around to get up above and look down to see if you can come in from above them? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, we've done that. And, you know, I don't know. Maybe my dad got one like that. I'm not sure. I know we've done it, and we've came to beds, like empty beds where they were bedded down, and we just happened to, you know, they happened to catch us coming down the hill or something, you know, whatever it was. But that's definitely a good, a good thought, because if you talk to any of the Salernos, they'll tell you, start high, get high as you can in the morning, early before light, and hunt downward all day. And they shoot really big deer, and they're some of the best hunters in the Adirondacks. but that's what they say. Start high and hunt down, and you'll kill deer. So that's a good way to do it.
I've seen a lot in the past around us. Typically, when you're trying to hunt from the base of the hill, they typically got you before you even know they're in the area.
Yep. And I noticed that sound doesn't travel downward nearly as much as it does going up. Because we've walked ridges and stuff, and I'll have my dad within eyesight of me, and either I'll be up above him or down below him. And if I'm up above him, he can't hear me walking. But I hear him down below me.
It's interesting. So last Friday, I was doing a power hike in the afternoon, just scouting a new piece of property, and I had something happen that you can kind of correlate to that. I was flying across. It was just a wide open ridge, kind of like a bench on the side hill, and there was another. You could tell that I had never been on this piece of property, but I could tell from the topo map that it dropped off to my left, and I was trying to get down this ridge to come up and over. There was a saddle I wanted to check out, and I'm just burning through the woods, making all kinds of noise, and I just for a second stop and look back to my left, and here's a doe that comes up off of the side hill, and she never even acknowledged me. And granted, my wind was good. But she should have heard me. But to your point, I'm above her. She was coming off of the side hill up onto this bench. So maybe all that noise I was making coming across, she never heard it. She never even gave a look. She was just heading somewhere and never even acknowledged it. So I feel like sometimes when you're out tracking, you end up walking into stuff. I think about when we're doing big deer drives in Pennsylvania, where you are a driver and you are just trying to get somewhere. And so I see more deer driving often than I do when I'm sitting, because you're just covering ground and you just catch deer out just doing deer things and stumble across them. And sometimes
they panic. They don't even know what to do. They're kind of like, oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? Next thing you know, they're looking at a human, and you're like, oh, there's a deer.
Yeah, it's funny. But I'll tell you, I think that whole thing about hunting from hunting high to go down, hunting high to go low, or I think those. If you got a track, and I'm just thinking our topography where our family property is, we shoot a ton of deer from above. We have logging roads that go up and kind of, they wrap around the hill, and we can get some good angles on the deer and in some of the bedding areas. And that's I don't know about you, Jim, but that's one of my favorite things to do at camp is to get up high and just peek over these side hills where it's real steep and you can look down and see deer bedded. It's the funnest.
Yeah, literally have spots that you just go to every year that they're good vantage points, and there's going to be deer bedded down there. And you can literally just, if there's a little bit of snow on, you just walk up to the edge of the hill, peek over. If nothing's there, you go off to the next spot and peek over.
Yeah. Yep. And listen, if you took all the intricacies and the little techniques and just if you really broke it all down of what you guys do on your own land in Southern Zone, and you just magnify that a little bit, it all works the same. It's just on a grander stage. It's bigger. You know what I mean?
Right.
The space is bigger, the terrain's bigger, it's rougher, it's it's all blowdowns and spruce trees and swamps, and it's not very fun, but but it all works the same. If you have little techniques and stuff you like to use at home, that's something to think about too. If you're just laying in bed and thinking about hunting, because that's what we all do. Just think about some of the little stuff you do and that works, and I guarantee you can apply it to the big woods.
Yeah, I think, we get in areas where we only have, 500 acres, and we only have the same spots we can go peek over every single time we go there. So if you have the acreage to continue on and just go scope out more spots instead of stopping at those spots.
Yep.
It'd be fun.
It's definitely, we're coming in on, and that's kind of transition in the discussion, and you're more than welcome to hang on with us, Austin. We're getting excited because our gun opener is this Saturday, and it's a total change in pace for us. Everything here for the last 7 weeks has been sitting in a tree stand or, trying to be mobile, maybe sitting in a blind or whatever, but it's stationary hunting for the most part. So I know my style is I love still hunting. I think almost every buck I've shot with my gun has been on the ground still hunting. and just being on the ground, whether it be still hunting or in a blind or stalking, doing that stuff like we're talking, peeking over the edge of hills and stuff. But like for you, Jimbo, I mean, that's a big part of your game too, right? I mean, just you're excited to get the gun in your hand and get out and make it happen,
I mean,
right?
other than opening day, I don't normally sit around much. And I'm contemplating that this year too, because, I've done the sitting in Naples so far and I'm kind of bored. I want to go run. So I was talking about going with you and Jeff to kind of do some exploring over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you got to stretch the legs out.
Yeah, you do. And it's that time. Like, it's no different than when I came home from Colorado. You're like, you've been doing nothing but stretching your legs. So you're really excited to sit in a tree stand for 7 weeks. And then you get done sitting in a tree stand for 7 weeks, and you're like, I cannot wait to get out and just start still hunting with my rifle in my hand. But we're going.
There's a certain piece about still hunting because you don't really have a direction to go. You're just kind of wandering a little bit. I mean, you're going to go to where you think their deer are. Deer frequent or there's feed or whatever, but it's not like tracking where you're really driven, and it's not stand hunting where you're sitting there bored.
Yeah, you're just kind of letting the day take you where you're going, You may not leave that small block of woods. You may just stay in that area or that bedding area, but you just you don't know what's going to happen. So this piece, like, we kind of run through what our game plan is for opening day. This is a spot that I've hunted. This will be my 4th opening day in a row. It's been good to me every time. I think I've shot 4 deer in 3 years in this spot on opening day, 1 buck, 3 does. And so I'm really excited to get in there this year again. I haven't hunted there much. I sat there for 1 day, and during archery season, I haven't hunted it hardly at all. But Jimmy's going with me, my buddy Jeff, and I think my buddy Connor as well. So there'll be 4 of us going. It's a piece of public. And, my approach on this piece of property the first year, Jimmy and I thought we were going to be alone because it was Nature Conservancy property. We thought we were going to be on our own.
That was a mistake.
And it was absolutely not alone, and people were absolutely not following the rules. There was people everywhere, and there was 4-wheelers driving around. So it was a real shit show that first year. Still managed to get a doe at the end of the day, but it was not what we expected.
I had like 24 deer come by me at one point, and I was waiting for a good buck, and I had a herd of does just standing in front of me that, obviously, looking back on it, I regret not just shooting one of them. But
right,
that's going to be a different story this year. I'm not passing does on opening day.
No. So what this spot has turned into, and really, I think it's a pretty effective way to deer hunt during gun season, especially on the big pressure days, the opening weekend or Thanksgiving Day or the first Saturday after Thanksgiving, or really the heaviest hunted days during rifle season here in the southern zone, and is just figure out where other people are and hunt them, figure out where their access is, where they're coming in, where their stands are, and hunt those escape routes or, travel corridors where deer are going to be trying to get out of town. And that's what I did last year after a couple of years of intel on how people were hunting this property. So I've got, a couple spots set up that are like wicked pinch points that the deer are basically not forced to go to, but certainly you can tell that those are historically traveled areas. And then I think once the pressure gets on, they want to get out of Dodge and get out of there. And I mean, it worked out absolutely perfect for me last year. I shot my buck at 7:30 in the morning, trying to sneak down into the area I was in. And then I shot a doe while I was quartering him up. Did you hear that, Austin? I was quartering him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm very excited to get back in there this year and to have Jimmy with me to get him down into another good spot that I think could be there wherever he ends up deciding to go. But my buddy Jeff's ripping and roaring. Jeff and Connor were with me last year, so they're both a little more seasoned and understand that property a little bit better now too. So hopefully it's a productive opening day for us up there.
Yeah, I hope so. Good luck to you guys for sure. I know I'm going to be out Saturday too, Southern Zone, hunting on the farm with my wife, and I know my brother, my grandfather.
Nice.
They're going to go out with me, and I'm just playing guide at this point for everybody, and just there to help and enjoy it and have the experience, which is fine with me. I'm totally good with that. I'm glad my tag's done. You know, I mean, of course, you know, the perfect season would to hunt all season, shoot one on the last day, but
Yeah, it's debatable.
Doesn't always work that way. Works that way for my dad.
It's also very nice to have the pressure off.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. You know, we call my dad last minute Mark because he shoots every deer at the last minute of the 12th hour.
Yeah.
But he's just, I don't know why. Maybe he gets serious on the last day, you know, and just makes it happen because he's done it. He's done it out in Montana twice. He's done it in the Adirondacks. He's done it at home, hunting Southern Zone. Like he's like last day of the season or last day of the trip or whatever. He shoots one, you know, sorry, excuse my language.
Oh my God. I can't believe you just swore on this family friendly organization podcast.
No,
if you only knew young Austin.
Listen, I'm sure I try to be as, you know, professional as possible if I'm not totally,
you blew that,
you know, into the group, but you guys have done a great job with the podcast. You know, you guys are cool to listen to because I like to learn about stand hunting and, you know, setting up all that kind of stuff because my dad's not big into it and he knows where to put a good stand, but that's basically it, you know. So I'll stand hunt, but that's not really what I do. But I'm trying to work on it because I want to make my bow hunting a lot better because you have 6-7 weeks of it before you can even touch a rifle down here. So
yeah. No, I appreciate those are kind words, and we're having a lot of fun with this. I mean, this is you know, our Breedinum Radio that we do throughout deer season is it's kind of evolved and developed a little bit, and this whole platform using bullhorn has changed things a little bit this year, and it's just fun to kind of be able to interact different ways with people and get guests on and ask questions and you know, do some of these live shows is a lot of fun, and it's just fun kind of creating that network here in New York and something a little bit different. I mean, there's all the different you know, social media groups and pages and things like that, but there's a shitload of podcasts out there, but there's very few that are putting content out about what's going on here around New York. And honestly, I mean, I don't know, it's a grind. I think at some point I think it'll really pop because I know there's a shitload of people that listen to hunting podcasts, and why would you not want to listen to one that was locally based instead of one that's, you know, out of Iowa or Michigan, or, you know, there's a ton out of Michigan and I listen to a lot of them. I like them, but it's not home. Like, I love knowing what's going on here. So
exactly. You know, like the first hunting podcast I got into was Big Woods Bucks. You know what I mean? Obviously with Hal and them guys. And just my dad being a part of that, and they're all really great guys. I love that podcast. And then my dad told me that he was on here with you, and I listened to that, and he's like, yeah, they're right out of New York. I'm like, that's badass. I love local people because I think New York is a terribly underestimated state when it comes to deer hunting.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think it's way harder than people think, but I think we got way bigger deer than people think too.
Yeah, I think that's case in point this year. I mean, look at I can't believe the deer that are being shot this year. Everybody's shooting big stuff.
Blows me away.
Yeah. There's been
this week I feel like the last at least, you know, 7 days from now, you know, the last 7 days I feel like people really turned it on, man. Like every time I go on Facebook, it's like more and more people I know are just knocking down huge deer, like make my deer look small, and my deer is a nice buck.
Yeah.
But I'm like, damn. I'm like just absolutely hammering these big ones. I'm like, that's awesome. I love to see that.
Yeah. And I mean, whether it be New York and Pennsylvania gets a lot of attention too, but holy shit. I mean, the bucks just the guys that we know in Northwest PA, Bo Martonic and his family following along with him. And then Steve Shirk. I mean, Steve shot it's nice to see him finally put the hammer down on a big one. You know, he's always working so hard to get on big deer, and then, you know, trying to get his clients on him more than anything. But to see him knock one down, and then, you know, Bo just posted a picture from the buck that his dad shot over the weekend. It's like, holy shit. I don't know. Did you see that buck, Jim?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. You got to go on his Instagram page. And I mean, the deer's gigantic. I mean, it's hard to even believe that that's a deer that comes out of the mountains, you know? So it's the caliber of the deer. I don't think that anybody can argue that. It's just getting better and better. You know, I think people are letting them go, you know, the yearlings go, and it's just going from there. I mean, you look at the age class of deer that we have at camp, Jim. I mean, we have a better age class of deer at camp than we have here in Agland. You know, Dallas and I were talking about that yesterday. I mean, we're just getting yearling bucks on camera. We get one of our target bucks like once every 5, 6, 7 days. And other than that, it's just all fork horns.
I feel like that's turned on in like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's because I feel like everybody's, they at least let them get 2.5 years old, and then, the ones that don't get shot get bigger, and then you have more 2.5-year-olds. So now all the 2.5s are getting shot, so they're getting bigger.
Yep.
But I think that's a big flip in the last 10 years. I mean, Dad shot some nice bucks back in the day, but we're shooting nice bucks every year now. Yeah.
You go back and look at the family pictures.
You guys shoot big deer, for sure.
Some people do. I don't.
Big bodies.
I
don't. You shot plenty, I'm sure.
I was dumbfounded that when I shot in 190. I've never shot a bodied deer that big around here.
That's a big deer, man. Like 190 in general is a big deer, but you shoot a 190-pound deer in New York in southern zone, let alone like that's enormous, man. That's really a big deer.
His rack was not that big. Like I was talking to Billy before you got on. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a 2.5-year-old deer. I feel like.
I don't know. Would have been. We got the trail cam pictures. It'd be cool to look at the pictures and just kind of look at his body and the structure of his body, on the hoof, because you can tell a little bit by that. But I don't know. That's pretty wild.
It is.
Like my uncle, he shot a 9-pointer up north a couple years ago, and it's a pretty big 9. Like it had a big frame to it, gorgeous deer, but he weighed like 187, I think, and it was a big deer for sure. But then my dad tracked one, and it's the 7 mistakes buck that's in the book, but he ended up finding the sheds from that deer, and I think the sheds scored at like 150 something or like 160. It was big antlers, but his tracks were small. He said he had dainty little feet. He didn't have a huge stagger. Like body-wise, he wasn't that big of a deer, but antler-wise, he was just an absolute monster.
Yeah. It's weird.
It was like Frank. I mean, Frank only weighed 150 or so.
Yeah. Yeah, and we knew he was at least 5 years old, probably 6, but he just didn't have a massive body. But, I mean, he got shot the Friday after Thanksgiving in bed and freaking breeding everything that had 4 legs for a month, So he was the king of the mountain.
Well, I think during the rut, they lose about 30% of their body weight.
Yeah.
Or so, somewhere around that.
Yep. And he had a mouth injury. Who knows how long that was. He had a nasty cut and broken teeth in the front of his mouth. So, he probably wasn't eating much. If I had to guess, that probably couldn't have felt good for trying to eat. So these deer, they're freaking tough, man. They're warriors, and you don't know what the story is. That buck that you shot, Jim, you don't know.
No idea.
Yeah. I mean, you probably are getting the Euro done, so you have the teeth, the jaw, right, or no? It'd be interesting to get it aged.
I don't know if last year I got the jaw back with FT, but I didn't ask for the jaw back with this one.
No.
So, I mean, we had some trail cam pictures of this deer, but I mean, nothing that we knew about. There've been so many decent bucks on trail camera that it's hard to point it down to anything in particular.
That it is. Well, we're reaching about our hour and a half mark here, closing in on 10 o'clock. So I guess we'll kind of start closing her down. But Austin, it's been really fun having you on here. It's been fun chatting. It seems like we basically just, you're one of the guys, and you're pretty easy to talk to. So thank you for being that. Not surprised, but congrats on the buck. Fantastic deer. I love the story, and hope that you'll try quartering one out one of these days so that you can live for another hunt. But give a little.
One of these days I'll have to.
Yeah, you will. And if you need any pointers, I know we'd be happy to help. I have a video that we filmed last year, but I don't feel like putting it up on YouTube and having them censor us. So I'm just holding on to that. But give a little plug, because I've noticed your dad's gotten definitely more involved with Big Woods bucks. And he's does some of the ads on the podcast and stuff, and so it's cool to see him getting more involved. The Facebook page, that's kind of becoming more interaction on there. So why don't you give a little plug for Big Woods bucks and what they've got going on as far as what you're involved with or aware of?
Yeah, so I help out with like the social media aspect of things and just a little bit of that, but my dad's a lot more involved. He's really stepped up and just done a lot to help them guys out, and they love having him around. But they got together with Andy Larson of Skinner Sights. They have their own BWB, Big Woods Buck Series, Skinner peep sight that they collaborated on. They have them for Remington 760s, 7600s, and they have them for the Marlin 336s and 1895s, 1894s, one or the other. I always get those two mixed up because I only hunt my 336. But that's a big thing right now. I mean, that's what I had on my Marlin when I shot that buck the other day, and it was a great sight. I mean, granted, the deer were super close, but I love that sight. It's normally I always hunted with an access, and I switched over to that, and I love it. I know they're trying to get a different wool provider because the wool provider that they had went out of business because of COVID and everything. So, because they got their own, Big Woods Bucks wool clothing line, which I have, and it's the best stuff I've ever had. But so they're trying to do that. They got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. They're trying to get a special run of some sort of rifle with all Big Woods Bucks insignia and stuff on it, tracker series, things of that sort. I know they work together with Onyx really well, and all of the guys use it, even the guys that have only used a map and a compass forever. Onyx has really become like a staple in everybody's hunting. Doesn't matter what you do, if you're stand hunter, still hunter, tracker, if you're a trapper, you know what I mean? Onyx is unbelievably useful.
It is, no doubt. And I would, if nobody's listened to the podcast, I mean, it's one of my favorite podcasts. When I see them put an episode out, I can't wait to tune in because, like I said before, number one, the main accent is entertaining in itself. But then listening to these guys, they do a great job. It's a hunting camp feel. Every time they, busting on each other, you get to know the guys and the inside jokes, and it's a really lighthearted, fun podcast to listen to, and it's extremely informative. And it's cool to have a guy like Hal. Like, I didn't know anything about him until I had your dad on. Your dad was talking about him, and then they had gotten the podcast started. And so like you get to hear this guy who's a legend in hunting the big woods and shooting big bucks and tracking. He's a legend, and having him on record recording all this stuff, it's super cool to get that out there because a lot of those guys, they don't have that platform, they don't do it, and then that knowledge and information is lost. So I definitely encourage everybody to check out the different stuff that Big Woods has got going on, whether it be their podcast or go to the website and plug for your dad on his book. I'm really enjoying reading through that. I joked my wife yesterday, I'm awful at getting through books because it takes me forever, and then I like get on to something else. And so I've got like 7 books that I'm like 4 chapters into, but I'm bound and determined to get your dad's finished here, before we get into the meat of gun season, because I want to really, that's my main goal this year, is to do some tracking. If we get snow, I want to get out and do some tracking. And your dad's book is a lot of fun to read. It's very, the stories are very interactive and they're relatable, and it's a fun read. So you can get that book on the Big Woods Bucks website. So anybody that's listening and interested in any of that, head over there and check that stuff out.
Thank you. Yeah, they also have an outfitting business too. So, they guide for moose, they guide for black bear, they guide for whitetails. There's all sorts of different stuff on there. They have a lot going on. Just scroll through the website, check stuff out. They have the hunt club you can join, and they have all sorts of different articles and stuff to learn from. Because there's so much information out there. But I know we're running short on time, so I really appreciate you guys having me on here. Sorry if I ramble a lot. I just get so wound up with tracking and talking about hunting. It's just the best thing in the world. So
that's what this podcast is for.
That's exactly what it's for. The only reason why
I appreciate it.
The only reason why I'm saying we got to wrap it up is because my wife is sleeping right above me, and I'm going to get a whooping if I don't get up there and, be Big Spoon. That's what Mm-hmm. So it's been awesome, Austin, and nice meeting you, and we'll hopefully stay in touch. And thank you for that. Yeah, congrats on the big buck and Big Jim. Next time I'll see you will be about 60 hours from now, not even, maybe 50 hours from now, and hopefully we'll be drinking and getting ready for opening day to go freaking just fill our packs full of meat. I can't even wait.
Just can't wait till the latte hits my lips.
Just feeding them. So,
well, like I said, if you guys ever want to, if you want to go up north tracking and we have snow and you want just to go with somebody that's, done it a little bit and has some experience, then I'm more than welcome to do it. But if we shoot one, then y'all got to drag it out. I'll help you.
Deal.
I'd like to see.
And then I'll quarter my next one. How's that?
That's fair. We'll take turns. We'll shoot 2. We'll drag 1 and quarter 1. That'd be the deal.
All right, I like it. All right, thanks, guys. I'm going to sign off, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Austin. Take it easy.
You too. Bye.
All right, Big Jim. We'll start to wrap her up here. Anything closing?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, me too. So we'll see you Friday night, hopefully. And to everybody else out there listening, I hope you have a great opening day and opening weekend. Shoot straight. Shoot as many does as you legally can.
Make sure you know what the hell you're shooting at.
Yep. That's a great point. Safety's no accident. Wear your orange. That's a new rule this year. You have to be wearing orange. So make sure you're wearing your orange. Have fun. At the end of the day, no one gives a shit what you shoot. So just fill your freezer and be happy about it.
And then boys from the Hunt Works are still here, just grinding away.
Just Daniel. What a hard-working sumbitch.
Sons of bitches.
All right. Good night, folks. Good luck this weekend. Fade 'em.
Shut it off.